Chapter 1. A Toxic Beginning. /in. I don't own things. I am poor. This is the brand new Toxic Hero, having been edited to fix all of the mistakes I made last year that made me take it down originally. It is now back and better than ever. I kept some things relatively the same, as they were fine and had no issues. Sometimes life wasn't fair. This was something Izuku Midoriya could say easily. In a world where you can be born with any number of possible powers labeled as quirks, the mind normally goes to leaping tall buildings with a single bound, powerful enough to lift the building with one hand, or flying. Things people would see in comic books. What Izuku got, however, wasn't fair. He was basically a canister of multiple dangerous chemicals. His quirk having given him physical altercations since birth that had disturbed most everyone who Izuku had come across, and early on it forced him to always wear something to hide his face. It made people for the most part ignore him when he kept to himself and kept the lower part of his face covered. He was a kid that anyone would assume needed to be in a hospital bed with a priest. His skin having a pale and almost sickly yellow tint to it in some areas due to his quirk. His permanent bloodshot green eyes. Wild green hair that dropped down to barely above his eyes. The bottom half of his face normally covered by a green bandana he tied and had up over his nose, normal people not seeing it for years. The only people he would speak to more than the few words to his teachers were his parents, who did the best they could in the situation they were put in. An accident upon his quirk gaining of his quirk had resulted in his mom being stuck in a hospital for 3 years after, and since then she has always needed a breathing tank and medicine because of the damage done. Izuku blamed himself all the time, but his mother said it was an accident and was just happy to be around to watch her son grow. Izuku's father Hisashi Midoriya, also known as the pro-hero Spitfire, had helped Izuku control his quirk, something Izuku was against for years until Hisashi explained how it could be used to help others if used correctly. In fact, if Izuku kept following training and private lessons with his father, he might be able to get a recommendation to the best hero school in Japan, UA High. However, for now, he was at Aldera Junior High, where he only had one friend, Katsuki Bakugo. A rather violent-tempered guy, to most people but not Izuku, with ashy blonde spiky hair and crimson eyes. Only 3 centimeters taller than Izuku. Katsuki was lucky with his quirk he was born with. Similar in the sense of different chemicals in their bodies, it ended when Katsuki could use the chemicals as explosions erupting from his palms. Katsuki was the only other student to communicate with Izuku willingly. In his own words, "You're smarter and have more potential than all of these fucks combined." He had respect for Izuku and helped him through the period where Izuku's mother was hospitalized. "Hey." Katsuki jabbing a finger into Izuku's shoulder, getting his attention, leaning over from his seat to the right of Izuku's. "Sorry, I zoned out." Izuku turned and looked to Katsuki. "Yeah, I can tell. Hey, are you fine on your own today? These 2 losers want me to go to the arcade today." The blonde spoke quietly as to not let their teacher know they weren't focusing on the lesson. The mutated teen nodded. "I will be fine. If you get free time, I might be at the spot." "Still trying that theory?" Katsuki asked, wanting Izuku to say no. "I won't test it by myself. I just want to see something else, something my dad mentioned." Spitfire hasn't been mentioned in crime cleanups recently. "Your dad all right?" Katsuki knew well about the huge fight between Spitfire and his biggest enemy Sledgehammer that occurred recently. He is still healing from that fight with Sledgehammer. Izuku remembered how stressed he was on the way to see his dad at the hospital that night. "Yeah, his leg didn't look fine in the news," Katsuki remarked. "He might be able to walk on it by May," Izuku mentioned. "And right back out to kicking ass again." Katsuki nodded. "Your dad is definitely the coolest fire hero I know of." "Spitfire sounds cooler than Endeavor." Izuku nodded. His dad Spitfire was his idol. Born with a quirk where he constantly had fire shoot out of his stomach was dangerous, but his dad spun it to its best potential and had become number 7 pro hero in Japan, and a well-known name around the world too. However, the spotlight for most well-known flame hero was Endeavor. Izuku had met the man once a year back, and he wasn't pleasant. "No way is someone named Spitfire cool," the kid in front of Katsuki said. "Who names themselves after spit? It's because he fucking breathes the fire, dumbass." Katsuki snapped at the kid. "So why not Flamethrower or Flame Breath? Those names were already taken." Izuku answered with the reply he got from his father years ago. Ya dumbass. Fire is a well-common quirk. So many names are already taken. Katsuki added. PSSH, still a dumb name. The kid turned back to the front. Yeah, and will your name be? Fucking glowstick fingers. Screw you Bakugo, you dick. The kid with glowing fingers spat at Katsuki. You want to settle this outside class? Katsuki stood up. Please keep it civil. The teacher with lackluster care said. Katsuki, don't fight. Izuku tried to warm him. Yeah, listen to the freak face. The glowstick kid said. Without hesitation, Katsuki slammed a punch into the kid's face and tackled him to the ground, leveling more punches to his face. Fucking apologize to him right now. Katsuki held the kid by the hem of his shirt. Katsuki. Izuku got up and tried to pull his friend off of the poor kid. Bakugo, Midoriya, and Akamitsu. All three of you to the principal now. The teacher actually started enforcing rules, escorting the three to the principal, standing between the glaring Katsuki and Akamitsu. Why are you in here, Midoriya? The principal asked. Izuku answered calmly, knowing that the school had some weird favoritism for Katsuki. A conversation started that mentioned my father. Akamitsu said that his hero name wasn't cool, and he and Katsuki argued about it. I tried to stop Katsuki, but Akamitsu called me a name, and Katsuki started attacking him. I tried to separate them, and now we are here. The old principal nodded as he wrote. What was the name used against you? Just for the report? He called me a freak face. Izuku mumbled. Because of the physical changes my quirk has done, that is fine enough. I have a clear picture of the situation. You can go back to class in 1 minute. I want to say something first. Izuku nodded, expecting to not get in trouble. What is it? First off, I am sorry to hear what happened to your father. It isn't good when good heroes get hurt in the line of duty. Hopefully soon they catch that villain. Secondly, I have a letter from UA High School. The principal said. The chemically quirked kid had a frozen expression for a second before he went wide-eyed. What? Indeed. If I must say from the outside, it looks as if this is a letter regarding the recommendation courses. I thought that the courses only get sent to a handful of people total this early on. Izuku held the letter like it was the most fragile thing in the world. The principal nodded. It seems as if they feel you fit that standard. Izuku smiled underneath his bandana. Thank you. You can go now. The principal waved him off. Izuku pulled out his phone on the way back to class to see a text from Katsuki. Katsuki, got suspended. Izuku, they really suspended you? K, I know, right? I thought they worshipped me. It's only for today. That's good. Katsuki, look what I got. K. Izuku sent a picture of the outside of his letter to Katsuki. K, lucky. Better let me come over when you open it tonight. Okay. Be careful at my place. Dad is kind of pushing his rehab. K. Man wants to get back to work that bad? Yeah. Mom got worried yesterday when he fell down, his leg gave out. She made him go back to the hospital. K. Respect. K. The working part, not him falling. I figured. Izuku put his phone away and entered his classroom. Izuku walked out of the school. Class is having just ended. Hey, you. Izuku heard someone say behind him, not looking because his name wasn't you, he continued. Hey, freak face. That confirmed it was about him, but he continued walking because that wasn't a way to talk to him. Izuku got pushed from behind, and he fell to the ground, catching himself before his face hit the ground. You got Akamitsu suspended, freak face. Izuku looked to see it was two of Akamitsu's friends, who could easily be defined by the word goons. He got himself suspended by egging on Katsuki. Izuku tried to stand up before he got a foot to his back, slamming him into the ground. Yeah, Bakugo might have thrown a punch, but it was because he has some weird defense of you. The first one said, it's a shame Bakugo hangs around you. The second one added, has a good standing in everything but associates with a freak face. Just watch yourself nowadays, because we are going to get you. They both walked away from Izuku to leave. Picking himself up, Izuku twisted his side to make it feel better. Glad he didn't get assaulted or hurt in a way that would release his quirk, Izuku began to walk back home, feeling the bandana he wore in public that covered his face feel heavy with all of the comments of his face. He didn't understand why mutant quirks were so hated, only in the subset where physical changes are not perfect like wings or extra arms, but instead unpleasant looking. It made no sense to judge people on something they had no control over. He wanted to believe his face wasn't bad looking, but years of comments like freak face never helped him. Izuku walked under a bridge and heard a voice from behind again. Well, you look like you will die in 15 minutes, but that hopefully is enough time to hide from him. Izuku turned to see a mass of sludge with eyes and mouth looking at him. The sludge jumped at Izuku, who struggled against the sludge person that tried to latch onto him. Get away from me. Izuku struggled more before he lost his footing and fell over, hitting his head on the sidewalk. Dazed Izuku couldn't fight anymore as the sludge person forced themselves behind his bandana. A minute later, the villain screamed in pain and threw Izuku away from him. What the hell? The villain screamed as he felt himself burning, the sludge of his that had entered the sickly-looking boy being covered in burns. What are you? Before anything else could happen, a manhole near the two shot up and a massive man jumped out. Have no fear, for I am here, the massive man said as he leveled a punch into the sludge villain, so powerful that the villain blew apart into chunks of sludge, which the man quickly put into a 2-liter bottle. Izuku stood up, feeling blood from his forehead before he realized his bandana had fallen off and must have blown away from the punch. Izuku looked at the man and realized it was the #1 hero in Japan, All Might. Izuku faced away from the hero to hide his lower face. Are you okay, young lad? All Might asked as he screwed the cap to the bottle on. Yes, I'm fine. Izuku stammered. I believe you are bleeding. All Might moved around Izuku, holding the boy's shoulder to keep him from rotating. Yes, you are bleeding. Must have hit the sidewalk hard. Izuku saw All Might's eyes look at his lower face for all of a second before they went back to the wound hidden by his hair. It's fine. All Might narrowed his eyes and looked into the boys. You seem like you want to hide away. May I ask what is bothering you, young lad? Izuku felt embarrassed about his insecurities he felt were small compared to all the problems All Might tried to help people with every day. I'm sorry, I just get bullied because of the changes my quirk did to me. All Might picked up the bag of the boys that was on the ground, an envelope falling out that they both didn't notice. Do not listen to bullies. They bully you because they don't understand why your quirk has done those changes. I have worked with many great heroes who have mutant quirks. All Might grinned as he handed the bag to Izuku. Izuku smiled at the thought of him being a pro hero. Thanks, All Might. Izuku actually ran away to get home. All Might smiled at the happiness he gave the boy just now. Preparing to jump to a police station to turn in the sludge villain, he stopped when he saw an envelope. He grabbed it and saw it was for UA, to a person named Izuku Midoriya. Could it be that the boy who just left had dropped it during the scuffle with the villain? All Might put it in his pocket to find the boy and return it to him after he turned in the sludge villain. Man, I can't believe I am suspended because of Bakugo. Akitmitsu groaned as he kicked a rock in the alley he and his two friends were in. It's Freak Face's fault. One of his friends said. It really wasn't. I might have actually pushed it with that. Akitmitsu said. Everyone knows Bakugo is defensive of him. It just pisses me off because I said Spitfire's name was lame. I understand that he defends Midoriya, but why the hero name of Midoriya's father? Did you just say Spitfire? A gravel-like voice asked the three boys. They turned to see a silver-haired man with burn marks covering his jaw and bare left arm. Yes, why? Akitmitsu felt worried when looking at that man. I have a score to settle with Spitfire, and if you tell me where this son of his is, I can make it more one-sided. Izuku slid to a stop when he heard the sounds of yelling. Get away from us, you freak. That sounded like one of Akitmitsu's friends. Help. That actually sounded like Akitmitsu. Izuku ran to the alley where the three boys who were part of the school that bullied him were running away from a man Izuku saw on the news. The villain Sledgehammer, the man who out his father in the hospital. Guys, come this way. Izuku ran up to them and ended up in between them and Sledgehammer. The one who first kicked Izuku earlier had a broken arm and bloody nose. Midoriya? Akitmitsu shouted in surprise, wondering why Izuku was there and helping them. Izuku wasn't wearing a mask or cover either, so he could see the changes that he mocked the boy for. "Oh, so you're the son of Spitfire?" Sledgehammer grinned, and Izuku could see his silver-lined teeth. "This makes it all easier. Midoriya, what are you doing?" "He wants to kill you and your dad." Akimitsu backed up. "He's trying to hurt you guys. Go, I can buy time." Izuku ordered as he built up the chemical combination his dad was helping him learn as a new move. "Just as stupid as your father. How is his leg doing?" Sledgehammer used his quirk to pull all of the silver lining his body into his namesake in his hand. "I can give you a matching one, although with your disturbing face, I might need to do more work on Spitfire if you want to be matching." Izuku ignored him and decided to run at Sledgehammer instead. Once he got close enough, Izuku released the chemicals in his mouth and spat a ball of fire at Sledgehammer that hit his chest. Sledgehammer screamed in pain and swung his overly large sledgehammer into Izuku, crushing his side and launching him headfirst into the side of a brick building. Izuku fell to the ground, blood pouring out of the wound that got worse. "I guess both father and son like to spit at people." Sledgehammer brought the sledgehammer over his head to bring down on the barely conscious boy. Before Izuku blacked out, he heard a booming voice yell, "Detroit Smash!" Izuku opened his eyes to see he was in a hospital bed. "Oh, Izu, you're awake." Izuku heard his loving mother say. "What happened?" Izuku turned to see his mother and Katsuki, feeling a pang of guilt when he saw the yellowish marks around his mother's mouth and nose. "Well, you tried to fight a supervillain and got decked." Katsuki had an annoyed look. "You get one letter from Yue, and you let it go to your head." Izuku's mother gasped. "You got a letter from Yue?" Izuku nodded. "I haven't opened it yet, but this early means it is the extra stuff for recommended prospects that show the most promise." Apparently Izuku makes that cut and got himself decked. Katsuki said, "Oh yeah, that dick Akimitsu was here earlier." "He was?" The chemically quirked teen wondered why Akimitsu was there. "He wanted to talk to you but left because you were unconscious." Katsuki shrugged his shoulders before handing Izuku his bag. "Now show me this letter of yours." "What happened to Sledgehammer?" Izuku asked. "All Might actually showed up and decked him after he decked you," Katsuki said. Inko smiled after she used her breathing tank. "All Might actually wanted to speak to you himself, Izu." "Really?" Izuku asked. "Dude, you have had a busy day," Katsuki stated. "All Might left, however, saying he had plans, but gave me this to give to you, Izu." Inko handed a brown envelope to Izuku. Izuku took the envelope and opened it, dropping his letter from Yue and a folded piece of paper. "My letter?" "Must have dropped it, and he found it," Katsuki said. Izuku opened the folded piece of paper to see a note written for him. "Young Midoriya, 2 different altercations with villains back to back, and in both you showed a strong will. I think you will go far as a hero if you accept that recommendation offer from Yue and look forward to seeing you become a hero." "All Might, what's it say, sweetie?" Inko asked. He wants me to know I did a good job, and he thinks I will be a great hero," Izuku responded. "Okay, well, get to the Yue letter," Katsuki said. "I want to know what to brag to others about you." Izuku opened the Yue letter. "Dear Izuku Midoriya, you have been selected for our early recommendation selection course due to your high grades and unique quirk, as well as a recommendation from a current pro hero and previous student at Yue High School, Hisashi Midoriya. Please arrive at Yue between April 15th to 19th to retrieve a packet of information pertaining to your extra course to put you on the track of becoming one of the recommended students to Yue High if you choose us as your high school. Principal of Yue High, Nizu." "So they want you to do extra nerd shit? Guess I am glad I am going in there the normal way." Katsuki smirked, proud of his friend. "Dad recommended me?" Izuku looked at his mom. Inko had a huge smile. "It was an early birthday present, and he felt you earned more than that. Wait till he learns you stood up to that villain." "Is Dad still here at the hospital?" "He was released, and I made him stay home. He doesn't know what happened yet," Inko said. "I didn't want him to stress out more, especially if he can't see you after his worst enemy attacked you." "When am I allowed to leave?" Izuku didn't want to stay there any longer than he had to. Hospitals always reminded him of how he accidentally out his mom in one. They said it should only be a few hours. "Here, take this." Katsuki handed Izuku a cloth. You apparently lost your bandana so here. Izuku took the cloth and tied it around his lower face. Thank you. A few hours later, Izuku and his mom returned to their house. A one-story house with a basement. Izuku's father has spent a decent amount to turn into a chamber with strong filters to let Izuku test and practice his quirk. Hey honey, is that you? The deep voice of Izuku's father asked from the living room. Yes, dear. Izu is here with news. Inko announced as they entered the living room. Izuku saw his dad in basic green sweats with bandages covering his entire left arm and leg, a brace on his left knee, and a cast for his neck. His shirt light green hair stood up as seemed almost as if it was fire. He looked like Izuku, except with healthy-looking skin, no freckles, strong features, and refined muscles. What's the news, Izu? The chemically quirked teen handed his father the letter from UA. I got selected for the early recommendation course. Hisashi Midoriya grinned. That's amazing. I knew for sure that you would get into the recommended class, but to be one of the course takers the whole year? Already on a high track. Hisashi wanted to get up and hug his son in pride, but his leg made that difficult, so he stayed sitting. They already like your quirk, it seems. Izuku nodded. Speaking of that, I got to test the move you thought of last week. The flaming father perked up. Oh? Training with Bakugo was good? Izuku looked embarrassed to answer with the truth. I actually ran into Sledgehammer. Izuku could see the stress from those words affect his father. You what? What happened? Hisashi sat all the way up, making a groan as he jerked both his leg and neck. He tried to attack some other students, I think because he thought they knew where you were. I got in his way and he found out I was your son, so he decided to kill me. I used the fireball idea and hit him in the chest before he used his quirk to throw me into a wall. Hisashi felt worse about not taking down Sledgehammer in the fight they had a few weeks before. What happened then? Inko, who had returned from taking her medicine, spoke. All Might showed up and stopped the villain before he could hurt Izu anymore. Sledgehammer actually got arrested and didn't escape this time. Hisashi felt better knowing that All Might managed to succeed in getting Sledgehammer, who had been slippery in the past. He is a good man. Maybe I should set a date to thank him properly for preventing more harm to you. He actually wanted to speak to Izu about today, wanted to say how proud he was to see a good hero in the making who managed to fight back against 2 villain attacks. 2 villain attacks? Hisashi felt his blood pressure rise. What was the other? A guy made of sludge was trying to escape from All Might and tried to use me as a body to hide in. Izuku remembered seeing the sludge person freak out after getting burned by him. He actually tried entering through one of my cheeks. The man raised an eyebrow, curious about that. That seems bad, for the sludge guy more than you. He ended up getting burned by my chemicals. Izuku answered. You had a big day, commented. I only had to deal with intense stuff more than once a day halfway through my time at UA. Inko came back into the room, smiling. Dinner is in the oven. You two wash up. Be careful today, son. Hisashi said bye to his son as he left their house the next day. Okay, Dad. Izuku said as he saw Katsuki outside. Hey, man. The explosively quirked teen nodded his head. Ready to go back to school a big shot? I don't think throwing one attack before getting hit so hard I pass out counts as being a big shot. Izuku started walking to school with Katsuki. No matter how you look at it, you were badass. Defended kids who were cunts to you. Or stood up to a random villain in of itself is big. However, take the whole thing together as you defended people who bullied you. Not even thinking of that while you stood up to a fucking supervillain, the same one that injured your dad? That's badass. Katsuki finished. I still went down in one hit from him. Yeah, but you set him on fire. Apparently you spit fire on him, which is a level of poetry to avenge your father. When did you start taking language arts serious? The Emerald teen joked. I just think that the other kids should leave you alone before you crush them under your massive balls. The explosive blonde said. Izuku looked at Katsuki. Please don't say that again. At school, Izuku noticed people looking at him differently, not negatively like they normally did. It still made him uncomfortable, but luckily the normal crowd separating energy of Katsuki helped them get to class as quickly as possible. He heard multiple people say things about villain attack or Sledgehammer. Told you were a big shot now. Katsuki said as they entered their classroom. Hey Midoriya. Izuku turned because Akamitsu of all people spoke. Hello. The boy with a mask replied. Listen, I'm sorry I was a dick. Shouldn't have said anything like that about you. Akamitsu apologized. The guys are sorry too. Izuku nodded. It's alright, I guess. It's alright? Katsuki asked. Dude used his guilt to make him a puppet. Akamitsu got an annoyed look on his face. Do you have to add your dumb comments to everything? Katsuki gave Akamitsu a dirty look. Do you have to be a bitch about it? Do you have to be an asshole? Wanna fucking fight? Katsuki snapped. Izuku got between them. Come on guys, don't fight. It was now lunchtime at school and Izuku and Katsuki were sitting at a table by the back wall, away from most people due to how Izuku wasn't exactly liked by others. So that fireball I heard about, you are totally showing me it. Katsuki stated. It didn't burn from what I recall. My mouth, I meant. So you have natural resistance to flames? As far as I know. Before they could continue, Akamitsu surprisingly sat down at the table, across from Izuku on Katsuki's left side. What do you want? The explosive blonde asked with edge. Can it Bakugo? The teen didn't even look at him, but instead Izuku. Can I ask a question, Midoriya? Yes. The chemically quirked teen answered with slight confusion. Can you explain your quirk to me? Like, actually tell me about it. All I know is rumors from people, and after recent events I think I should get better knowledge. Akamitsu was slightly embarrassed, but also wanted to actually hear about the quirk that saved him. Izuku's confusion only grew more. Someone was actually asking about his quirk? He didn't want to be rude, so he answered. My quirk is something I named Toxin. My body can actually produce a lot of dangerous chemicals, but I have an immunity to them since they are made in my body. I can expel the chemicals in certain combinations for different effects, like how I spat a fireball at Sledgehammer. I can expel everything through what looks like valves in my hands, through my mouth, or through these. Izuku pointed to the bandana on his face, forgetting it was there and blocking his face. Akamitsu looked at Izuku with a blank expression. Midoriya, I can't exactly see what you were pointing at due to the mask. The masked teen blinked. Oh, I won't be an asshole. I'm actually interested. Akamitsu stated. If you show him, and he says anything bad, I will kick his ass. Katsuki offered. Izuku nodded and untied his bandana to reveal the lower half of his face. It made Akamitsu think of a gas mask. Izuku had two protrusions on matching sides of his cheeks. Veins around them were a thick yellow, and the mounds looked like they had actual bones working as valves, and layers. Izuku's skin seemed open in more areas up and down his lower face, with bones covering them, leaving little gaps like vents. Izuku's mouth and that area seemed normal save for the paleness of his lips. It did bother Akamitsu, but he ignored that feeling. What purpose do they serve actually? Kinda like storage for my chemicals, and the place they can come out is smoke for the most part. Izuku felt nervous having his face uncovered. What's the bones for? Akamitsu understood why the boy didn't really like having his face uncovered. Unlike a few people, he had never once seen Izuku's face uncovered, which made him realize he might have been a dick for bullying the kid and calling him a freak face with that fact known. They can open like valves. Inside it looks like a bright yellow light. The air in there is highly corrosive for all of 1 millisecond after it leaves my nodes. Do they have to work together, or can you make them do separate tasks at the same time? Separate and together is both possible. Although the separate ones can be weaker unless I combine both nodes in one main chemical. Akamitsu waited a second before asking his next question. How many chemicals can you make? Izuku rubbed his neck. Actually, any chemical I have ingested is something I can make. I think it is because the main chemical takes it in and learns to copy and make those chemical formulas. Akamitsu gained a surprised expression as he began to fully understand the potential of Izuku's quirk. Having availability of numerous dangerous chemicals just because your body can make them? It's a good thing Izuku was a good person, or else people like Akamitsu could have gotten poisoned a long time ago. Honestly, hearing about it, the quirk sounds better than anger issues personified over here. Akamitsu implied Katsuki. Hey, fuck you. Katsuki was ready to fight the teen. Guys, no. Izuku sighed. It was April 15th. and Izuku used that first day of being able to get his information from UA by showing up just after the gates opened. Well, hello. A tall, beautiful woman with a really open shirt said. Izuku recognized her as the pro-hero Midnight, who wasn't known for modesty. You must be one of the early recommended students, correct? You're too small and cute to be enrolled here already. Izuku nodded. Yes. I wanted to get my stuff as soon as possible. Well, follow me, little cutie. We have stuff for everyone set up in a room. Izuku followed her into what was the main building of UA. Being led towards the room, he saw a number of pro-heroes in the halls he recognized, such as Present Mike and Snipe. Okay, here we are, Midnight said happily as they entered the classroom that had different packets for the multiple students who were going to be recommended to the school. Midnight went to a smaller table that had a total of 10 packets on it, each thicker than the ones from the rest of the room. You're a year early one, so you guys get a bit more to do, and more personal stuff as you lucky few all have quirks that are quite exceptional. What's your name, sweetie? Izuku Midoriya. The boy answered. Midnight gave him a surprised look. Oh, so you're the son of the one that got away? Huh. Izuku actually tilted his head in confusion. I went here with your dad. He was hot, not just his quirk. I actually added a recommendation for you when he was giving his. Why? Izuku didn't know where she was taking it, or why she would mention being into his dad years ago. Then again, this was Midnight, who was known for being inappropriate. Well, your quirk is close to mine. Well, much better than mine, and I wanted to see if you could copy my quirk's special chemical. Midnight smiled. Won't that seem biased if you help me a bit more than everyone else? Izuku didn't want to get in trouble. Please. I know for a fact every teacher here takes on of the recommended under their wings from time to time. In fact, I heard Present Mike already picked one before the person showed up. The pro-heroine grinned. Doesn't that seem wrong? Izuku asked. As long as it's not just one student, you're fine. Plus, Nizu already has a student as well. And he is the principal. He has a student picked himself? Izuku was really started to think the school wasn't fair. He only asked for her to consider coming to UA next year because of her intelligence quirk. She seems stuck up, but I am the opposite. Present Mike walked in with a student, a tall-built boy with a buzz cut and a wide grin. Hey Namuri, look at this little firecracker. Present Mike pointed to the boy. The boy did a huge wave. Hello, I am Inasa Yurashi. It is a pleasure to meet you. He stuck out his hand as fast as possible to shake Izuku's. Isn't it great to be here at one of the finest hero establishments? Izuku learned fast that Inasa was loud and very enthusiastic.
I'm Izuku Midoriya.
Izuku took the hand, thinking it would be rude to not. Inasa looked at Izuku closer, seeing his slightly yellowed skin, bloodshot eyes, bandana covering his lower face, and the hoodie Izuku wore made Inasa think something was wrong. Are you sick? Do you need help? Izuku looked confused before he remembered his appearance.
No.
Sorry for the confusion. My quirk does that to my appearance. A mutant quirk. Fascinating. Inasa nodded vigorously. I love meeting people and learning all about the different types of people and things in life that are different from region to region. What is your quirk? I call it Toxin. I can kind of make chemicals in my body that are dangerous. I'm immune, but my body looks like this as a result. Izuku. That does sound very interesting. My quirk is called Whirlwind. I can control winds, to say the least. We would be an amazing team in taking out crowds of villains, don't you think? Inasa asked. I guess we could. I don't have as many chemical combinations yet. Inasa looked like a thought smacked him hard. Wait, you said you are Midoriya? As in Hisashi Midoriya? The great fire hero Spitfire? Yes? He is my dad. Izuku didn't think someone would instantly fan out about his dad. He is my favorite fire hero. It was Endeavor, but meeting him was kind of a letdown. He has no enthusiasm. However, I met Spitfire, and he is as amazing in fights and being a hero as he is in person. I cried when he got pulled from the wreckage and taken to the hospital a few weeks ago. Izuku hadn't met someone who loved his father as a hero as much as he did. If it makes you feel better, he is doing okay right now. He can't walk as much, but he really wants to get out there. Inasa grinned. That is the hero spirit I yearn to have myself. Spitfire is a remarkable man. Izuku nodded. He actually is the one who has guided my path as a hero. Inasa grabbed Izuku's shoulders. As fellow fans of Spitfire and aspiring heroes, I declare us friends. Present Mike nodded.
Ida et.
Midnight looked at Present Mike. Why is it always our two that become friends? Inasa gasped. It was even destined? Izuku wanted to stop being shook along with Inasa, who seemed to vibrate with his own energy. It was a coincidence, really. You're not getting out of it that easy. I picked you a week ago, Midnight said. Because of your father. This is completely fate. Another student walked in, followed by a mouse or a bear. Whatever it was, and it had a suit. Hello, hopeful future students of UA, the animal said. I am Principal Nizu. I am Inasa Yurashi, and I am honored to be here at this pillar of heroism. Inasa screamed excitedly. Nizu smiled at the boy's enthusiasm. Already knowing he was like that from his file, he then turned to the other, sickly-looking boy. Hello, I am Izuku Midoriya. Izuku said in a normal tone. I'm Psycho and Telly. The female that followed Nizu announced. Psycho had what looked like a high-class dress suit and a red scarf wrapped around her neck. Bluish lavender hair that went down to her waist and equally bluish lavender eyes. Her eyes seemed calculating of everything in the room. It is a pleasure to meet you and Telly. Inasa smiled. Psycho seemed put off at first by his enthusiasm, but nodded. It is indeed a pleasure to see others who are considered a cut above, even the ones who are already considered a cut above. Psycho gave Izuku a look, trying to decipher what his quirk was, as he obviously had a mutant quirk from how he had a bandana covering his face and odd shapes were in the fabric. What might you two have that makes you as high as you are? I have a quirk called Whirlwind. Inasa spoke. When Psycho wanted Izuku to speak first, she can get to him in a second anyways. I can control winds, quite adept I believe. What is your quirk? Psycho looked at Izuku. It's called Dash. Inasa spoke for Izuku when he didn't, but got cut off with the arrival of someone else. Another hopeful recommended arrived. A girl with dark green hair, sharp teeth, and green eyes. What's up, everybody? The girl said as she entered, making herself well known that she was there. Hello, I am Inasa Yurashi. Mirroring his attitude, the girl spoke again.
I'm Setsuna Tokage.
Isn't it amazing to be here with such an amazing opportunity to make our paths as heroes? Inasa grinned. Oh hell yeah. This is amazing. Setsuna grinned. Izuku felt dread at seeing two loud people that fed off of each other. Midnight looked at Present Mike. I love this year's batch. This is my friend Izuku Midoriya. Inasa pulled Izuku forward to show Setsuna. Izuku was wishing he just grabbed the packet earlier as fast as possible and ran. Setsuna looked Izuku up and down. You know, if not for your clothing choice and maybe getting a haircut, you would be the perfect example of hot. Izuku was glad he wore a bandana because his cheeks turned orange, the color of his blush, due to the chemicals in his body. Thanks? Izuku mumbled. I was expecting flirting back. We can deal with that later. Izuku wanted to know why she said later like that. Hey, why don't you four kitties take your packets and talk as a group outside? Midnight said. As much as I enjoy seeing youth and life play out, this isn't a break room. Yes, it is. Present Mike said. Midnight looked around. Oh, I thought this was just an empty classroom. My point still stands. Inasa nodded. Miss Midnight is correct. Let's all go work together. Before Izuku could say anything, Inasa had dragged him along. Hell yeah, let's party. Setsuna followed them out the door. Psycho only followed because Izuku intrigued her. Izuku didn't know how they ended up at a pizza place, but they were there. Inasa seemed to have just led them there. So String Bean. Setsuna said to Izuku. What's with the bandana? Are you trying to rob the place? Izuku felt red-faced at the attention brought to his face. My quirk changed the lower half of my face, so I hide it. Setsuna looked at him like she understood what exactly he meant, that he was ashamed of it. Well, you can't eat pizza through fabric like that. Take it off. Izuku sighed inwardly at having to take off his cover. Do I have to? Yes, Setsuna said, pushing the issue because she doubted his face was that bad. Psycho silently wanted it off too because it could help her figure out his quirk. Izuku took off the mask and all three others saw his face. That looks badass. Setsuna didn't even have to lie for Izuku's sake. She genuinely thought the gas mask-like appearance of his lower face looked cool as hell. So, is that where you make your chemicals? Inasa wanted to poke one of Izuku's cheeks but fought the urge. Chemicals? Psycho asked. You can make chemicals? Setsuna was thinking of how cool Izuku would have been as a science partner. My quirk is called Toxin. I can create multiple chemicals that are stored in my body. It's kind of why I look like I need to go to a hospital. Izuku explained. The hospital can't help that look. Setsuna grinned. Too powerful of a look for them. Izuku didn't know if that was a compliment or not. What exact chemicals? Psycho was trying to get a better gauge on his quirk. I haven't exactly figured that out. I can make fireballs, though, Izuku said. A great way to honor your father. Inasa patted Izuku's shoulder. Who's your father? Setsuna asked. The greatest fire-type hero in Japan. Inasa said. Endeavor? Setsuna looked confused.
No.
Inasa said flatly. Psycho nodded before she spoke, because she figured it out. Spitfire? Izuku nodded as well. Yep. Oh, he is awesome too, Setsuna said. It sucks what happened against Sledgehammer. Did they ever catch Sledgehammer? Psycho asked. I actually ran into him a few days ago, Izuku said. He wanted to finish my dad and thought I could be fun to destroy also. You fought a supervillain? Setsuna asked, thinking she should stop jokingly flirting with Izuku and actually flirt. To avenge your father and take up his legacy? Inasa seemed excited. I got defeated by him in one hit. I was trying to protect some other kids. Izuku felt embarrassed that these two thought he wiped the floor with Sledgehammer when it was actually the opposite. All Might rescued me. PSSH, you still stood up to a supervillain that was after your dad, Setsuna said. Badass runs in your family apparently. It was a huge moment of character. Inasa nodded. Can we talk about someone else instead? Izuku didn't like being the center of attention. I mean, we don't know your two's quirks. Setsuna grinned excitedly. My quirk is called the Lizard Tail Splitter. I can separate my body into multiple pieces that can levitate and do whatever I want them to. They can regenerate and are nearly indestructible. That's incredible, Inasa said. I know. Setsuna grinned. I can use each part to track, spy, or attack people, and since they can move fast, I am set up as a really good one-girl army. What happens if a piece is completely destroyed? Izuku asked. Like if I used my chemicals to make acid that melts your kneecap. First off, please don't melt my kneecap, whether it is attached to me at the moment or not. Secondly, everything grows back on me, but it takes a good amount of energy to regrow limbs, so I don't like to waste my parts. Understandable. Inasa nodded. Can all of your parts actually spy or track, even if it were just a toe? Setsuna nodded. Yep. I don't understand it, but I love it. It would suck to fight against you one-on-one then, Izuku commented. With your quirk, I am sure you will get on top in that fight, Setsuna said. My quirk I just call IQ. Psycho added, getting herself into the conversation. By drinking different types of tea, I can actually raise my intelligence by bounds. Is it tea or something in the tea? Izuku asked. I haven't tried to discern the actual trigger yet, as I do enjoy tea. Psycho said. Well, if it's a chemical, then Midoriya can just produce it at will if you two ever team up. Setsuna pointed out. I just realized the four of us could be a very dangerous team. Inasa said. Tokage could track the villains, Intelli can make a plan, Midoriya can create a specific chemical in the air, and I can use my winds to move those chemicals at the villains. Hell yeah, Team Dynamite. Setsuna put her hand up for a high five, which Inasa gladly gave her. We do have a good assortment of quirks, Psycho said. Izuku looked at his phone and almost jumped out of his seat. Oh, I just realized I am going to be late for training. His dad wanted to help him with the fireball attack more. Off to a good start of knowing you, Setsuna said, quickly separating her hands from herself, and used them to type her phone number into Izuku's. This way the four of us can meet again. Setsuna smiled as she took Inasa's phone he was holding for her. Sorry I left like this. See you guys again. Izuku ran out the door, forgetting he left his bandana on the table. Psycho took the bandana and put it in her pocket. She was originally on the fence of going to UA or to CI Academy, but these three, more specifically the chemically quirked one, made her think it would be in her best interest to go to UA. So this is it? Katsuki asked as he flipped through Izuku's packet later that night. Pfft. You got out of school for the day because of a stupid packet they could have mailed to you? Izuku nodded as he continued drawing the formula for his and Katsuki's idea. I also met some other people there that were there for the early recommendation course. It's not really a course if you just take a packet from them, and we'll do a test once a month for them. Katsuki closed the packet. So are you replacing me with other clowns? What? No, they're just new friends. Who got you to not wear your mask? Katsuki pointed out. Izuku felt his face and realized he actually wasn't wearing a bandana. He must have left it at the restaurant. Did you not notice that all day? Katsuki raised an eyebrow.
No.
Why didn't anyone say anything? The chemically quirked teen went to his drawer to put a new one on. Dude, relax, you don't need it. If you didn't notice it gone all day, then clearly you outgrew them. At least don't wear them at home, that's just fucking weird. Izuku put the cloth on his desk. I guess. Hey, so how many of the people there do you think I could take in a fight? Katsuki asked. Because even though I plan on going through the regular entrance exams, so I can make a huge entrance, I want to know if I could fit in with you elites. One of them has an intelligence-boosting quirk. You maybe have a chance. Izuku joked. Maybe? Against a regular person who is a nerd, I get a maybe? I can sweat explosions. The explosive blonde exclaimed. Change it from maybe to probably then. The toxic teen smiled. That's better. /N. That's it for the first chapter of the reworked Toxic Hero. Hope you guys like the return of this story, and one of my personal favorite quirks/powers I have given Izuku. This time Izuku won't get OFA. However, I do know how he will get the upgrades OFA gave Toxin originally. Everyone thanks Sayumiko Zero for asking me about Toxic Hero earlier today, in fact, and getting me to kick it into gear to get this started. I shall release the next few chapters once a day until I get through all I have done so far. Hope it was enjoyable. Let me know how it was, either in reviews or on my Discord server, link in my bio, and have a good day. Chapter 2. /N. I do not own MHA, which is good because I can't draw for shit. Major note. All of the L mean a line break for text messages in the story, since upon a beta read someone suggested the lines to establish a good break between the texts and other stuff. Try to see if you can keep it around your hands. Hisashi said through the comm system he installed. Hisashi and Izuku were both in their basement, testing Izuku's control of his toxin once it is released from his body. Okay, Izuku said as he let his signature chemical out, the yellowish smoke like one that was always in supply in his nodes, releasing a small amount through the nodes. The cloud stayed close enough to Izuku, but it had no form, only there like it was because it was a small amount. I don't have control. Hisashi wrote it down on a paper for Izuku to use later, having to specify parameters of his quirk for his recommendation course. It's not bad. Your toxins all stay in the area they were released like a cloud anyways. Unless I pour more into it, or use my arms at full force. Izuku rubbed the dilating door like cartilage in his left palm. At least you control whether it spreads or stays in a cloud. You can't, however, hold it with you as you move. Which I would like. Izuku began to spread out more of his base chemical, something he referred to as CS1, all chemicals being listed as such. They had no particular pattern yet, just numbered as of now. You can work with this. Try to do your fireball, but from your arms. Izuku nodded and started to let the chemicals needed as fuel for the fire go first. Right as they were about to leave his hand, he released the second strand that would ignite the first one, causing a fireball to erupt and hit the wall Izuku was aiming at. That was amazing. Hisashi praised his son. Do the flames cause any stress as you make it? Izuku checked his arm. Not really, it's like my CS1 protects my insides. His CS1 was really amazing when it came to being a filter for his body. No other chemicals could have bad reactions inside of him while he had his CS1, which his body always had a large supply of. The only problem Izuku has with his unique chemical is that it is the toxin that harmed his mom, and the chemical itself was impossible to completely identify as a whole. CS1 was too complex of a chemical to be easily read. Hisashi put an extra note he meant to for CS1, It had a few different layers Izuku could use for varying effects, such as massive damage, being corrosive, or just enough to slow anybody down unless they risk more danger to their health. You want to call it for the day? Can I try the idea Katsuki had? Izuku asked. Do you even have nitroglycerin? Hisashi didn't know how many chemicals his son had, just that he can take new outside chemicals and add them to his list by ingesting them. Yes, I kinda asked Katsuki for it. He didn't want to actually say he drank a bottle cap's worth of Katsuki's sweat to get the proper chemicals. I guess. Hisashi shrugged. Izuku nodded and aimed one arm at the ground, using his other to stabilize it. Pulling the chemicals together, he released them, and a decently sized explosion rocked from his palm that took him off of his feet. The teen got back up while rubbing his head. Are you okay? Hisashi couldn't go in there to help his son because the filters still were emptying his CS1, and only Izuku could be in that stuff without protection without being harmed. Izuku held a thumb up.
Infine.
My arm doesn't feel any damage from the blast. It makes sense. Toxin did give you basically a second skeleton and dense muscles to carry them. Katsuki has a stronger ability to handle recoil because of his explosions. Quirks thankfully help some of us to not hurt ourselves from using them. Later, can we test my explosive blast again? I want to make sure I am used to quickly making it. Izuku asked as he pressed some buttons, making the filters kick into high gear inside his chamber. I have to have a checkup for my leg around 4. I should be home around 6. Hisashi closed the notepad. That's fine. The people I met that are also recommended want to hang out. The Emerald Teen said, remembering getting a time and address from both Setsuna and Inesa earlier before his training started. Have fun, Hisashi said as he used his crutches to talk the long way out of the basement and to the first floor. Bye, Dad. Izuku called after his father as he opened the door to his chamber, hissing sounds erupting from it as the locks moved. Once outside of the chamber, he put back on his same dark green hoodie and his bandana. Izuku got another message from Setsuna and checked it. Setsuna, hey, I'm already with Yurashi and we're talking about getting a bite at that one pizza place again. You down for that? Izuku, sure. I could use food after training. Setsuna, you train every day, don't you? Izuku, I have a busy schedule. Setsuna, better not forget your 3 best friends in that schedule. Izuku, I thought I already was showing up for pizza. Setsuna, uneasy face. Setsuna, I know. Setsuna, I'm messing with you, string bean. Izuku, I guessed. On my way now. Setsuna, all right. Inesa asked you to bring your papers for the course, saying we could bond as we all did them together. Izuku walked upstairs to see his mom taking more of her medicine.
I sua tia.
Inko smiled to her son. How was training? I felt something shake. I found out I could make explosions. Please be careful with that. We don't need everyone in the house injured at the same time. Inko said. I promise, I can barely do one at a time right now. Some kids from the recommended course want to hang out. I will try to be home around 5. Izuku said as he made for the door. Bye, Mom. Bye, Izu. I love you. Inko called out as Izuku closed the door. He didn't have to worry about the packet since it was in the bag he had grabbed from the doorway. Izuku sighed once he closed the door. Every time he sees the yellow-tinged skin on his mother, he always feels guilty. If it wasn't for his quirk, his mother would still be able to pursue her own dream of being a hero, instead of being stuck with a breathing machine and always on the verge of sickness. Izuku's phone went off, and he saw it was from Psycho. Psycho, I request your presence at my estate, please. Izuku didn't know why she still was formal over text. Izuku, all right. Where is your estate? Psycho sent him her address. It was only be 3 train stops and a walk to her neighborhood. Izuku didn't know why she wanted him at her estate. Did she not know of the plans with Setsuna? He should ask just to be sure. Izuku, hey, Intelli is coming, right? Setsuna? Setsuna. Yeah. Izuku. Okay, I was confused. Setsuna. About? Izuku. Word for word, she said, I request your presence at my estate, please. Setsuna. Estate? Fancy. Setsuna. I literally told her before I told you. She agreed to come. Don't know why she wants you to go her place. Setsuna. Setsuna. Wait, maybe she weighs that dick.
Elle.
Izuku almost dropped his phone reading that message.
Elle.
Izuku. Did you really have to send that message? Setsuna. Yep. That way if I am right I can totally say I called it. Winky face. Izuku. You're just like Katsuki. Setsuna. Who is this Katsuki and how am I like them?
Elle.
Izuku boarded the train, which wouldn't take off for another minute.
Elle.
Izuku, you say really weird things. Setsuna. LOL. What did they say that was weird?
Elle.
Before Izuku finished typing the message, Setsuna sent another one.
Elle.
Setsuna. Wait, don't tell me yet.
Elle.
Izuku felt the train take off and a new chat head popped up. Opening it, he saw that Setsuna had made a group chat for him, her, Inesa, and Psycho.
Elle.
Setsuna. Okay, now you can say it. Inesa. Say what? Setsuna. Stringbean has a friend that says weird stuff like me apparently. I wanted us all to hear this. Izuku. It's weird now. Not saying it. Setsuna. Please?
Izuku. No.
Inesa. I kinda want to hear it and also not at the same time. Setsuna. Please see? Psycho. She is most likely not going to drop it. Izuku. It's still weird to repeat what my friend said. Setsuna. Tell us? Please. Izuku. No. It's too weird. Setsuna. Please.
Elle.
Izuku sighed. Setsuna definitely was the stubborn one of their group.
Elle. Izuku. Fine.
Setsuna. Yay. Izuku. After the whole sledgehammer thing happened the next day at school, my friend Katsuki noticed how everyone was treating me different because of it, and he said, the other kids should leave me alone before I crush them under my massive balls. Setsuna. Ajin's Jaj. Izuku. What just happened? Inesa. She fell out of her seat laughing so hard. Setsuna. I love your friend. Izuku. I regret saying it. Setsuna. Don't. Setsuna. It was beautiful. Inesa. Tokei's reaction was funny.
Elle.
Izuku saw that Psycho had read the messages but wasn't replying at all. Guessing from the one time he met her, she probably doesn't appreciate that type of stuff. It had started raining by the time Izuku found Psycho's estate, and it was big. The front yard of the Intelli's estate was easily bigger than Izuku's own home, which wasn't small by any means, but this was still big. The building itself was a 2-story brick mansion, with a variety of plant life in a garden encasing the building. Izuku rung the doorbell to the mansion, hearing a ring sound on the other side of the door. Izuku rubbed his hands together and removed his bandana from his face, letting it hang around his neck. It would steam up too badly and burn the fabric if he left it on too long, especially in the rain, water seemingly making the nodes heat up when it got in them. A butler opened the door and spoke before seeing Izuku. You must be Midoriya, correct? The butler looked at Izuku, and the boy saw the slight look of disgust the man hid from seeing his face. Izuku ignored the reaction. Yes. I was told to come here by Intelli. The butler, no longer even looking bothered by Izuku's face, nodded. Miss Intelli will be down shortly. You can wait here inside so you aren't in the rain. Izuku nodded and entered the building, seeing the sleek floors, walls with paintings, and also photos of people that looked like they could be Psycho's parents. Before I get Miss Intelli, I must apologize. The butler spoke. Miss Intelli had previously informed me of your quirk, and I am ashamed of my reaction to seeing it. Izuku didn't really ever have people apologize to him over the looks they give or anything regarding his lower face. This was semi-new territory, but he was going to take it with stride. It's okay. It is a little off-putting. The butler seemed relieved that Izuku wasn't holding a grudge, like he expected Izuku to hold one. I do still apologize. I shall notify Miss Intelli you are here. Izuku nodded as the butler left. His phone went off again.
Elle.
Katsuki. Hey Izuku, wanna hang tonight? I got new remotes after I broke the last one. Izuku. Sorry man. The people from UA wanted me to hang, and I'm already at one of their houses. Katsuki. One of their houses? What are you guys showing off your houses to each other? Izuku. No. Intelli asked me to come to her place, so I did. Katsuki. A girl. Katsuki. asked you to go to her house. Izuku, yes. Katsuki, have you considered this might be a booty call?
Elle.
Izuku exhaled a breath, realizing that Setsuna and Katsuki both just have to take everything the dirtiest way possible.
Elle.
Izuku, not a booty call. Katsuki, not with that attitude. Izuku, not with any attitude.
Elle.
Hello, Midoriya, Saiko said as she came around a corner. She was wearing her signature white dress suit, but over it she had a red coat. Thank you for agreeing to my request. It's no problem. Izuku said. Why did you want me here exactly? Saiko finally got next to Izuku, and he could actually smell the perfume she was using, making her smell like lavender. I wanted an escort to our meetup. After all, I am a young lady, and people might take advantage. Izuku nodded. Makes sense. Saiko pulled a cloth out of her pocket. I also wanted to return this to you. You forgot this at that restaurant the other day. Izuku smiled as he took the bandana, putting it in his hoodie pocket. Thanks. Shall we go then? Izuku opened the door for Saiko, who smiled at the gesture. Let's. How come you didn't take a car there? Izuku asked while they were on the train, one stop away from the closest exit to the pizza place. He had put back up his bandana to cover his face. Saiko, who had been looking around the train during her first train ride, looked at Izuku. I wanted to step out of my comfort zone. Something I will have to do for this recommendation more often, so I decided to practice. I feel like just being around Tokage can do that for us. Izuku joked. Saiko made a small smile at the joke. She is eccentric. Definitely. Izuku nodded in agreement. Hey. Setsuna gave a toothy grin as the two arrived. You made it finally. People were overreacting about the rain. Izuku explained. Now we can do some bonding. Inesa grinned. Still can't believe your idea of bonding is doing paperwork together. Setsuna have Inesa a dry look. I can't complain since I agreed, and it is raining, so we lost some of our options. We could just chat and eat before we worry about the papers. Izuku offered. That works. Oh, I got this amazing camp story about how I made a bunch of kids believe the boogeyman was after us. Setsuna said excitedly. How? Saiko raised an eyebrow. Okay, this was a few years ago. 10 minutes later, Setsuna finished her story. How did you not get in trouble, or even caught? Izuku asked the green-haired girl. Setsuna took a bite of pizza and shrugged. I dunno. After the window, I thought for sure it was obvious it was me. Inesa nodded. I probably would have not realized it at all. You were pretty sneaky. I really was amazing for a 9-year-old. Setsuna agreed. That's when I decided I could use my quirk for more stealth-like tactics than just swarming people in a barrage of attacks. To think you got more skills by being a delinquent. Saiko stated. Although I must admit it is humorous. Hey, I even got Intelli to laugh at it. Setsuna said with pride. That's a win. A manager of the store spoke loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear him. There is a villain attack down the street. The villains are highly destructive, so everyone follow me out dash. Before he could finish, a loud crash was heard as everyone could see car go flying past the window. Everyone go through the kitchen, the owner said as he activated his quirk, his arm turning into a dense wall of sand, morphing the sand to cover the windows. Follow the orange signs. A crack of glass was heard and the manager coughed, his sand absorbing the blow. The 4 kids quickly followed instructions and were the last besides the manager to head into the back, following another group of kids and an early 20s couple. Wonder what the villains can do? Setsuna asked as she walked behind Inesa, the person in front of the 4 of them. Might have a strength quirk. Izuku, the last in the line, guessed. They all heard police sirens. A hero should be here any second. Inesa said, feeling his blood pumping. The building shook and a large oven dropped right in front of Inesa, blocking their path.
No worries.
I can lift it. Inesa used his whirlwinds to get the oven to start flying. It sounds like it is right outside this wall. Saiko stated. The manager, right behind them, started to make his sand cover the wall to brace it just in case. Don't worry, kids, you are fine. He reassured them. Right before the whole wall exploded, all 5 of them were sent into various kitchen equipment. Inesa knocked into the oven he was moving. Setsuna was sent straight into the opposite wall. Psycho was slammed into a fridge. The manager had an oven crush his leg and pin him. Izuku was sent into some racks, toppling over with them before a microwave slammed onto his right arm. Izuku's vision was blurred as he could now see outside of the pizza place onto the street outside, where he could see a group of villains were trying to make their escape through the hole just made. "Hey, we now have hostages," a villain with a buzz cut said as he grabbed Psycho by the back of the neck. "Great." Another tried to grab Inasa. "We are no hostages." Inasa sent a ball of wind into the villain, trying to grab him. A foot flew out of nowhere and slammed into that villain's face. "Hell yeah, we ain't." Setsuna grinned as she got ready to fight. 6 more villains tried to enter the building. "Hurry up and move." One snapped. "They're just damn kids." Izuku stood up, having released a small amount of CS2 to corrode the microwave enough to free himself. "You picked the wrong kids." Izuku's arm was definitely broken, but luckily his pipe and valve in it for his quirk were still in decent condition. "A microwave beat you. How are you scary?" A villain mocked Izuku. Izuku looked at the knife near Psycho's neck and felt angry that they were threatening his friend. He started to untie his bandana. "I'm not scary." His pupils started to become a bright yellow from the CS3 he was building up. His bandana fell, and the villains could see his face. His body now having thicker yellow veins, especially around his eyes, from his CS3, which was a strand of his chemical meant to act as a momentary boost to his physical strength. It wears off after a second of not doing anything, and also carries the risk of Izuku's bloodlust rising. The bloodlust doesn't always increase or occur, but it could. The chemical strand making him more aggressive. "I'm your nightmare." Izuku jumped forward with incredible speed, slamming into the villain in front of Psycho, slamming his knees into the man's chest and taking the villain to the ground. Izuku quickly jumped up and yanked Psycho to her side to get her out of the way, before shoving his right arm straight into the villain that held her captive, quickly releasing an explosion that sent him backwards a step from the force, and flashing pain through Izuku's already damaged arm. Izuku had held onto the knife with his left hand, taking it away as well. The villain who had held Psycho was blasted into a wall, while Izuku slammed a hard kick into the jaw of the man he had first knocked down. Setsuna grinned as the fight continued, both of her arms floating and taking on separate villains with success. "Wow, you guys suck." Izuku headbutted another villain, releasing CS6 as he did. CS6 being a chemical strand he had that dulled awareness and made people hallucinate. The villain breathing it in completely, and just to keep him down, Izuku stabbed the knife into the villain's calf. He heard the first villain he attacked try to get him from behind, so Izuku whipped around with the knife and slashed the villain's chest before stabbing the villain's knee. The man cried out in pain right before Izuku headbutted him and knocked him unconscious. Inasa used Whirlwind to smack 2 villains into each other headfirst, and then sent them both into a third villain, and then all 3 into a wall. "This is exciting." The manager of the ruined restaurant used his sand to trap the stunned villains up to their heads in sand. He looked at the kids with amusement. "You don't see that every day. I didn't even see them use their quirks." Izuku fell onto his rear, feeling a wave of exhaustion from his CS3 wearing off. He coughed hard. Some blood coming out and a small puff of harmless yellow smoke also came out. Police appeared in the hole in the wall and saw the scene. "Well, this is new," one cop remarked. "That's a rush." Setsuna laughed. "What the hell?" A woman cursed. "I come to kick some villain ass and I got beat to the punch by some little kids?" The woman had an athletic build. She had dark skin, red eyes, and straight white hair reaching down past her waist. On her head, she has a pair of long white rabbit ears pointing upwards. Along with these, she appeared to also have a round white tail. Her hero costume consisted of a sleeveless white leotard with a dark purple trim and a wide, yellow crescent moon design over her chest. She wore purple thigh-high boots. She also had a pair of thick white gloves. It was the rabbit hero, Miruko. "We looked good doing it. Don't hate," Setsuna said. Izuku stood back up. The pro hero looked at the blood he had on his mouth. "Are you okay, brat?" The chemically quirked teen nodded. "This blood is from my own quirk." Miruko gave him a confused look. Your quirk hurts you to use? Are you all right, Midoriya? Psycho felt like it was her fault. She had wide eyes at what had just happened. She was completely useless and had to be saved. Wasn't she supposed to be a recommended prospect like them? Izuku nodded again. The strand of chemicals I used increased my strength momentarily. It just hurts when it leaves my system. Doesn't matter because they are all neutralized. Izuku grabbed his bandana from the ground. Got balls, kid. Mirko kicked her foot backwards to knock out a still-conscious villain. You four make sure you got checked on for your scrapes. Mirko noticed that Izuku also had a broken arm, but wasn't even trying to check it. Fix your damn arm. Mirko noticed a villain had a knife in their knee, as well as a slash in their chest. Another close villain had a stab in their calf. Mirko was surprised to see a kid had most likely did that. Izuku ignored her for a second to look at his friends. Are you guys fine? Bah, ignore me and check your arm. Setsuna said. I can regenerate. You can't? I can't feel it. My CS3 dulls my nerves. Izuku explained as he started to hold his arm. He wasn't going to mention it can also increase his bloodlust from time to time, and it did this time. CS what? Miruko looked at the boy confused. I make chemicals. Izuku pointed to his lower face. The woman didn't even blink at his appearance. All right, either way I am not responsible for your arm, so go get it fixed. Izuku nodded. He should see if he could find a chemical to induce quicker healing. Okay, Miss Miruko. Don't call me Miss. The rabbit-like heroine snapped as she was going to talk to an officer. Izuku looked to Psycho next to him. Are you all right? The periwinkle-haired girl looked at Izuku like he was insane. Worry about your arm, idiot. This was a very exciting evening, Inesa said as they went outside to gathering paramedics. This was the bonding I was talking about. Setsuna grinned, kicking bad guy ass. Psycho gained a frown because everyone had fought back but her, even Izuku with his broken arm. Midoriya, when could you make explosions? Inesa asked as he looked at the bruised left arm that used the explosion, which was holding his broken right forearm. My friend Katsuki can make explosions with his own quirk. I sampled the chemical. Izuku explained. A paramedic guiding Izuku to the back of an ambulance so they can sort out his injuries, his being the worst of the four. What were the villains doing anyways? Inesa looked at a nearby person also having a cut across his head checked. As far as I can tell, it was a raid on their hideout and the villains tried to flee. The person answered. So just bad thinking for us to be by that wall earlier. Izuku remarked. Nah, that was great timing. Setsuna flashed another toothy grin. You got thrown into a wall. Izuku gave her a weird look. I enjoy the rush of things. Blood-pumping things like this are exciting. We took them out expertly. Inesa added. Excuse me. A cop showed up, along with Mirko. Sorry for the situation escalating, and you kids being caught in it. You were all brave for standing your ground in self-defense. However, I have a few questions. Miruko interjected to speak. Which one of you stabbed the villains? Eyeing them all, Izuku raised his bruised hand. I did it. Why? The woman asked. She wasn't planning on lecturing him at all about not stabbing villains. Hell, she would have stabbed him also. It's just odd to see a kid willingly get violent. The emerald teen seemed nervous at the eyes all around him. My chemical strand that was used also has the effect of sometimes making me have bloodlust under its effects. You willingly made yourself more violent? The cop asked. Mirko had a smile. If he stayed like that, she would be proud of the next generation. Intelli was in trouble. Izuku said. I needed the boost and my arm was already broken. The cop couldn't really blame the boy. It was after all a stressful situation. The bloodlust is gone once my CS3 wears off, which it has. Izuku reassured them that he wasn't still violence-prone. Good control if all you did was stab his knee. The cop felt relieved that they didn't have a possible hero in the future that could teeter over the edge to becoming a villain. The four were all patched up and allowed to go grab their dropped items from the restaurant. So are we done for the day now? Setsuna asked as she rubbed the bandage over the bruise she got from being sent into a wall. Because personally that was great, and we shouldn't let it stop us anyways. Inesa nodded along. It was intense, but I am down with still hanging out. Izuku nodded too. his right arm now in a sling and bandages covering both of his arms. One of the paramedics, being someone with a healing quirk, made it possible for them to not have to go to the hospital. I am okay with it. Psycho had a frown still, not over the fact that she was useless and actually a damsel in distress. Hey Intelli, are you coming? Izuku asked as the three had started to leave without her, not realizing until then that she had not followed. She nodded slowly and began to follow the others, trying to form a plan to not be useless in the future. Outside of the restaurant, they ran into the manager, who had been giving his own report of what happened to an officer. The manager had created crutches for himself out of his sand. Seeing the kids, the man had a smile. I am glad you four are all right. Sorry, I melted a microwave. Izuku apologized. The manager waved him off. It's fine. Insurance will replace that. You four are brave, and I applaud you all. To show my regret of not being helpful enough to defend you all, I would like to offer free food here anytime you want. Awesome. Setsuna grinned. We don't need rewards. Inesa said. It's not a reward, it's a gift of apology. Setsuna whacked Inesa's arm. Izuku nodded. Thank you for the offer. The manager smiled at the kids. It's no problem. Just say my name when you come by. It's Flint Marco. Okay. Setsuna beamed. She grabbed Izuku and Inesa by the hands and began to drag them away. Let's go, guys. Psycho followed behind. After a minute, Setsuna stopped dragging them and stopped moving as well. So where are we going? Setsuna asked as they all got to a street corner a block away. We could go to my house. It's not far. Izuku offered. Lead the way, String Bean. Setsuna said. This is it. Izuku said as they began to walk up the driveway. You know, I didn't really expect the number 7 hero in Japan to have a suburban house. Setsuna remarked at the house. It was a white house with one regular floor if you don't count the attic. Dad isn't really one for that sort of thing, although we technically have 2 basements. Izuku used his key to open the front door. Why 2 basements? Inesa asked as they followed him. My quirk. Izuku answered. Mom, I am home. I have friends here. Izuku called out to his mom. They all heard a few coughs from the next room over. Okay, sweetie. How was your day? We got caught in a villain attack. We pacified them, though. Izuku quickly added, so his mom wouldn't freak out as bad. Inko rushed into the room. The 3 others noticed how she had a similar sickly appearance to Izuku, except she carried herself more like she was actually sick. Are you hurt? A microwave broke my arm. Izuku said a sentence he never thought he would say. A medical team patched us up though, Mrs. Midoriya, so we are okay. Inesa added. Inko held Izuku's broken arm. How long is it broken for? Just for few days. The paramedics had healing quirks and it got patched up. I can't believe that not even 2 weeks after you fight that one villain you get your arm broken by another. Actually, his arm got broken by a microwave. Setsuna said. Inko got a confused look. How exactly was it a microwave? The villains blew up a wall, and the microwave dropped on top of my arm. You were just now telling me about the explosion? The sickly Midoriya looked a little irritated as well as worried again. Are you trying to give me a heart attack?
No.
Sorry, Mom. Izuku said. Inko patted her son's shoulder. Luckily you're okay. Try to not get yourself in another incident for a week, please. I promise. The teenage Midoriya nodded. She looked at the 3 other kids. Now who are your friends? Inesa immediately was in front of her and shaking her hand. I am Inesa Yurashi. It is an honor to meet you, Mrs. Midoriya. Inko was surprised at his overall energy. She smiled after getting used to it. You're a lively one.
I'm Setsuna Toukage.
Setsuna had her signature toothy grin. Psycho did a small waving motion with her hand. Psycho and Telly. You all seem like wonderful kids. The sickly Midoriya smiled to them before she started to lightly cough. I will let you kids have your fun. She left the room back the way she came. I like your mom. Setsuna said. Is she who you inherited your quirk from? Inesa asked.
No.
Mom has telekinesis. Izuku answered. That was an accident from back when I gained my main chemical. They didn't say anything for a second as they followed Izuku to his basement. So why 2 basements exactly? Setsuna repeated her earlier question. The first one is a normal basement. The second one is my bedroom and also has a highly filtered chamber for me to practice my quirk. Izuku led them down a staircase that held a hallway that led out from under the house itself and under the backyard. Cool, Setsuna said. Practical. Inesa nodded. The basement consisted of 5 rooms. The main area that had some furniture, a TV, and a small fridge. A bathroom off to the side. Izuku's own small bedroom. A room with thick glass that was the only way to get into the test chamber made up the last 2 rooms. A side door was a second exit that would take you to a small shed in the backyard. This is nice. Setsuna plopped down on the couch. It's like you got your own place here. Izuku took a chair. My dad said he didn't want to just have a hole dug for the testing chamber, so he turned underneath our backyard into this. It is very nice. Inesa agreed with Setsuna, taking a spot on the couch, Psycho taking the last spot. So what do you guys want to do since it was your idea? Izuku more or less geared that at Setsuna. Oh, we can do our paperwork now. Inesa offered. Setsuna gave him a look. Paperwork for UA is your idea of fun after we kicked villain ass? Inesa shrugged. It can help us better understand how to work together and also get our stuff done quicker. Psycho nodded in agreement. It would hasten the pace. That's 2 of 3. Izuku said. No, that's 2 of 4. Setsuna countered. My vote doesn't count. I just supplied the location. Izuku replied as he pulled out his UA packet. I guess. Setsuna said. We can point out flaws with our quirks with more than one mind on it. They were silent for a minute, filling out things that were personal. Izuku turned on his TV, so they could have something a little better than silence. Inesa poked his packet with his pin. Right here is a good start. Quirk weaknesses. They want us to broaden our ideas of our quirks and understanding of it. Do weaknesses on that paper include drawbacks of your quirk or how it has changed your person? Psycho asked. Yep. Setsuna reread the paper. Then I am going to mention my low EQ. Psycho said as she wrote it. What's EQ? Inesa asked. Emotional quotient. Izuku answered. It's the capability of anyone to recognize their own emotions and those of others, the ability to understand different feelings and label them appropriately, use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior. So you're emotionally dead inside? The mossy-haired girl looked at Psycho. The intelligence quirk teen gained an annoyed look. I have emotions. I just can't understand emotions and emotion-driven actions well. I believe it is due to my IQ quirk. It could have taken any EQ you had and poured it into your IQ. Inesa understood what she meant. Everything is basically driven by logic if I can help it. Although sometimes I do act on my emotions, but I still don't understand why. Psycho explained. When my quirk activates, I can see hundreds of possible ways things can go. But anything that would be emotional just appears like a variable, and sometimes I can't see outcomes if they are heavily affected by emotions. Wait, you can see the future? Setsuna could have sworn she said her quirk was IQ and not being a psychic. When my quirk activates, it's like seeing every number, diagram, and chart of explanations of a situation float in front of me. Only I can see it. I don't see the future, I can just heavily visualize possibilities and understand how to plan accordingly to make whichever one I seem best happen. Perfect for a command and support role. The chemically quirked said as he wrote down a weakness to wind blowing away his more smoke like toxins. One of my weaknesses is probably the fact that if people can catch like at least 3 pieces of me and destroy them, I am a little screwed. Setsuna added. It takes a good minute to regenerate something fully depending on size, and it takes a good chunk of my energy. That's a drawback, Izuku said, writing down strands of his chemicals on another page. Not the actual chemical formula, but just what they do. You're a drawback. The mossy-haired girl responded. What are you even writing? How many weaknesses does your quirk have? I'm listing my chemicals on the next page. The page wants known uses of our quirks, so I am listing chemicals. You're listing the periodic table or stuff like whatever CS3 meant? Setsuna asked. Listing my CS chemicals. CS means chemical strand because I am not creative. Izuku stopped at 5. How many do you have? Inesa asked. Izuku passed him the packet. You can read them. Setsuna and Psycho leaned over to read also because they were curious. Quirk name, Toxin. Quirk type, mutant. Quirk description. Izuku has the ability to create chemicals in his body and release them through a unique network of cartilage bones that run through his entire body, having release points in his palms, soles of his feet, cheeks, and mouth. Physical changes. 2 protrusions on matching sides of his cheeks, resembling a gas mask. Veins around them are thick and yellow. Cartilage can be seen on the outside center working as a cover and opening if needed, similar in design to dilating doors. More layers of skin on the lower face open in more areas up with bones, layering on top of each other, covering the opening, leaving little gaps like vents. Chemicals.
CS1, Izuku's signature chemicale.
Orange-yellow in color and dangerous to everyone but him. His body constantly makes the complex chemical, and it houses all of his other chemicals. Found primarily on the nodes on his face, but is actually found all over the inside of his body. Dangerous for 2 seconds outside of Izuku's body. CS 1A. Harmless yellow cloud of smoke Izuku can release. Toxic chemicals are removed in favor of using cloud as a scare tactic, diversion, or cover. CS2. Highly corrosive strand of chemicals. Isn't a cloud but actually a set of powerful sparks and heat with short range, 2 inches. Can cut through steel with extra force from both arms, and is only useful for half a second outside of Izuku's body before it just becomes harmless vapor. Used primarily to cut through objects. Similar in appearance to having a blowtorch in Izuku's palms.
CS3. Non lethal.
Works as an enhancement to physical capabilities, increasing speed and strength by approximately 250%. User gets highly aggressive and 60% chance of increasing bloodlust of person who has breathed it in. User will cough out the remaining toxin of CS3 in blood once the chemical runs out. Mostly used by Izuku as a boost. CS4. Highly explosive strand of chemicals. Izuku can release from his palms as an explosive attack. Can't be used multiple times in a row. CS5. Flammable strand of chemicals. Capable of creating flames from his arms or mouth. CS5A. Strand variant of CS5 that is a short burst of the chemicals. Results in fireballs he can shoot from his palms or spit out of his mouth. CS5B. Strand variant of CS5 that is meant to be used over time and recommended for only Izuku's hands. Results in streams of flames similar to a flamethrower.
CS6. Non lethal.
Dulls senses of target and can cause hallucinations. If enough is inhaled, the target will pass out. You are definitely thorough. Inasa finished reading. I still have a few chemicals I want to test before I wrote them down, Izuku said. Psycho had an idea while reading the list. Midoriya, can you create a single element at a time? For example, oxygen? Izuku thought for a second before he spoke. I never tried that, to be honest. For someone so thorough, you didn't think of this one thing? Setsuna raised an eyebrow. I spent a long time not wanting to use my quirk. Izuku replied, them all guessing he was referring to his mother's accident. After that, I guess, I jumped right to making chemical combinations and not thinking of the base element. Why don't you try it? Setsuna said. I could, but I don't want to mess up right here. Don't you have your test chamber over there? Psycho asked. You could tell one of us how to use the controls if they are difficult, and you can do it now. I don't want us to waste time on my Weibi thing when this is a group thing. As a group, we are going with it. Inasa stated. If you can make straight oxygen, you could make oxygen. You could possibly make blasts of air similar to basics from my whirlwind. Izuku looked at each of them. Okay. It will take a second to get the ventilation going, so we can talk about other things during that. They all followed as Izuku went to the main control board for the test chamber, which was under the thick window into the room. A small hallway with an airlock was the only way to enter the chamber. Damn, this must have cost a fortune. Setsuna eyed everything. The guy my dad contracted for this actually works on Island. He made this at a discount for us as long as the filtered tanks of some of my chemicals go there. Izuku grabbed a binder with a few laminated pieces of paper. This has the controls laid out and a few notes. Psycho was closest, so she took the binder and opened it, studying the papers. Do you really think something bad would happen from just trying to create pure oxygen? Setsuna asked. I don't want to take chances. I could try and accidentally release my CS1. Izuku took off his hoodie, leaving him in a black shirt that had the logo of an old band. Izuku pressed a button and the airlock opened. I will make this quick. If you can create currents of air, that means I can help you get used to them. Inasa stated as he turned on the speaker system. I doubt I can get to your level of control. At most I can probably shoot gusts of wind. Izuku looked up at the camera in the airlock. You have those exit points in your hands and feet. If you can practice good at it, you could end up having a way to fly. Setsuna offered. That would make it 3 out of 4 in this group. How can you fly? Inasa asked the green-haired girl. Not just my body parts separated from me can fly. As long as I am in 2 different pieces, every part gets to float around. Setsuna explained. Izuku mused the thought of flying. That would be nice. If I can create strong air blasts, I could reverse engineer it into streams of air and wind strong enough to lift my weight off of the ground and sustain flight. Inasa grinned. I hope you can, so I can pass on tips. Psycho started to feel like the weakest link of the team. Inasa has incredible control of winds. Setsuna can swarm multiple people, and Izuku can create multiple toxins, some of which can make him stronger than she could see. He already was under his shirt. All Psycho could do was think harder. She decided right then that she was going to find something to help her add to their group. So Midoriya? Setsuna began as she sat on top of a shelf. You like old bands like that? She was referring to his shirt. The airlock opened and Izuku was able to enter the chamber. Yeah, AC/DC is my favorite band. Nice. I dig them too. Setsuna responded. What's your favorite song? Mine's You Shook Me All Night Long. Izuku nodded as he began to try to make Pure Oxygen. That's a good one. I honestly like Shoot to Thrill the most. Izuku felt like he had oxygen and attempted to release it from his palm. A blast of air sounded because of the force behind it, and Izuku flew back a few steps. Luckily, his previously bruised left arm didn't take any bad damage from this. It just got thrown back. That was a strong blast. Inasa said, beaming at the new opportunities of teaching he can give Izuku. Izuku looked at his palm and the bone structure in his palm. He should have thought of singular elements before. However, through guesswork, Izuku hypothesized that he couldn't just outright create anything. He would have to test his limits once his arms were better. He looked up at the 3 on the other side of the glass and had a large smile. Thanks, Intelli. I wouldn't have ever thought of this. Psycho nodded. Glad to help. Now I have to teach you how to use it to fly. Inasa shouted. I can only do short bursts as far as I know. Izuku replied. Let me see if I can even make a sustainable current of air first. Izuku held back up his left arm, feeling the little bit of struggle it gave, the explosion earlier and everything wearing down on him. Right. I don't want you to fall or anything. Inasa said. Izuku, now having it feel more natural, began to pull oxygen, and noticed this time that the bone vents on his cheeks pulling in air a little bit more. My vents are pulling in more air. I might be just pulling the oxygen from around me. Izuku thought out loud. Your toxin system might need more air to supply an oxygen blast. Psycho offered the idea. Or it takes more breath out of you, so your toxin system works to replace the air supply in you. Izuku nodded before attempting to let out a current of air, holding it as long as he could. The strength of the current wasn't enough to actually make him fly. Perhaps he can use it as a sort of glide or double jump if it's needed. Guess you didn't have to worry about your dangerous chemicals. Setsuna remarked. Either way, I am using precaution. Izuku replied. He figured since he was in the chamber, he can practice his CS too. Intelli, can you give me a piece of metal? Psycho looked at the paper to see which controls do that. She found the button and pressed it. Here it is. A hatch opened on the wall and several sheets of metal could be seen. How does your dad afford all of this? Setsuna asked. We sell the sheet metal after I cut it. Izuku started to let CS2 chemicals flow into his arm, waiting to start burning. He could hold this one for about 4 seconds before it would start to hurt his hand, and he would have to stop the flow. His cooldown before he could go again being 4 seconds as well. Once he felt a good amount had built up, he began to start burning through the thick sheet of metal, sparks shooting off of the small jet of intense white flames coming from the hole in his left palm. He stopped at 4 seconds to see he was close to a fifth down the piece of metal. If you can figure out how to make that thing quiet, you could burn your way into anywhere. Setsuna said. He would sacrifice time and power of the heat in order to have it be quieter. Saiko stated. He could find the best balance between the two. Izuku finished his third set of burning. It would be nice to find a chemical to add that can make my hands not be at risk of burning up. That's the only thing I am struggling with right now. Once I find a chemical strand to make my flames be no longer dangerous to me, I can up my flames. You can create steroids, shoot flames, create air, and a lot of other things. Setsuna began. What can't you do? I can't grow facial hair. Izuku finished his fourth set. Really? Guess that's good because I think it would have been a struggle to shave around your vents. Setsuna tried to picture it. Plus hair could get cut and go into the vents. Inesa added. Speaking of hair and cuts, String Bean, you really need one. Setsuna pointed at Izuku's hair as he finished cutting through the metal and decided to exit the chamber. No offense, but all of our hair is killing it, and yours looks like it was killed. Izuku felt his hair. I haven't had problems with it before. Yeah, well, I'm trying to help you look pretty. When you have long stringy hair like yours along with the rest of your appearance, you can give a villain, zombie, or dying patient in a hospital vibes. Setsuna finished. I'll think about it. Izuku opened the final door to the airlock. This testing room really is amazing. Inesa said. Glad you like it. A voice made them all look to see Hisashi Midoriya there, leaning on his crutches. It took 2 years to make this whole place. Inesa moved so fast it was like he teleported in front of Hisashi. Spitfire, I am your biggest fan. You are an amazing hero and someone I hope to be as strong-willed as one day. Hisashi looked frightened at first before he realized Inesa was just a really excited fan of his. It's always nice to see someone who wants to become a hero. Part of why I love that job. It is an honor to meet someone who carries the true spirit of a hero. Inesa said, more like shouted. I can see you have more fire than I do, that's for sure. Hisashi chuckled, putting a hand on Inesa's shoulder. You're a good kid. Inesa looked like a fangirl about to faint from that. Wait, I remember you. Hisashi said. He snapped his finger. That expo last year in Tokyo. It was, I remember, just give me a second. Yurashi, right? The wind user nodded vigorously. Yes, that's me. Hisashi chuckled again. You made my day last year with how happy you were to meet me. Honestly, kids like you make me miss being able to do hero work. It is a tragedy what happened to you. Inesa said. Bah, I will be fine. Doctor gave me until the end of May to keep the casts on. After that I plan on getting back into hero work, and maybe this other offer I have in the works. Hisashi reassured Inesa he would be fine. Setsuna yelled, not liking not being part of the conversation.
I'm Tokage.
I'm telling your son to get a haircut. Hisashi laughed. I like that. He could use one. I'm being attacked in my own home. Izuku muttered as he put back on his hoodie.
I'm Intelli.
Saiko introduced herself after Setsuna nudged her. Nice to meet you, Hisashi smiled. Izu after you, and your friends are done with whatever. I found something you might like in the other basement. Hisashi said. Let me know when you want to take a look at it all. Hisashi finished as he began to walk away. Nice meeting you kids. Your dad is awesome. Inesa said once Hisashi left. To still want to be defending people while recovering from his own injuries? He is a real hero. He is great. Izuku nodded as he wrote down note on his paperwork. He has been calmer since Sledgehammer got arrested last week. He also said you should get a haircut. Setsuna brought back up her own topic. Which means get one. It grows on my head. Let me decide what happens to it. I am letting you decide. I'm just letting you know the only right answer is getting a haircut. Maybe get one like your dad. Setsuna turned to the other two. What are your opinions? Inesa shrugged. I think the hairstyle fits him and his quirk. Setsuna looked at Saiko. Saiko didn't answer immediately, looking at Izuku for a second, noticing how his hair seemed to part around his eyes so he could see. Besides his eyes, most of the top half of his face was hidden by his emerald green hair. She thought she felt an emotion but ignored before she answered Setsuna. I think it is all right. That's 3 out of 4. Izuku said as he went back to the main room, opening the small fridge to grab himself a water bottle handing one to Inesa. You don't get a vote this time. It's 2 out of 3. Setsuna took her spot back on the couch. It's my hair. My vote should count the most. The Emerald teen stated. Nope. She shook her head. One of these days, I might just cut your hair for you. No, you won't. Izuku said as he sat back down. I can split into like 50 different pieces. I could do it fast. Setsuna offered. Worry about your own hair. Don't come at my hair like that. She shot him a look. My hair is beautiful. Well, keep your focus on it and not mine. He responded as he sat down in a chair.
Fine.
She dropped it, even though she knew she was going to bring it back up again eventually. Psycho suddenly got an idea on how to get stronger. She just had to wait for later. It was a few hours later. Izuku agreed to take Psycho back to her place, and Inesa and Setsuna had parted for their own homes. The chemically quirked teen followed his intelligence-quirked friend off of the train, even though she got off a stop early. Intelli, where are you going? Izuku asked. I'm going to go make myself useful to the group, Psycho said as she kept walking, turning a corner with a clear spot in mind. What do you mean? I know you have high intelligence as well as me. It doesn't take more than a few seconds to know that on this team I am its weakest link. That's Izuku got cut off. Please don't disrespect me by telling me a lie to comfort me. You all have versatile abilities that work in combat as well as other areas. All 3 of you are intelligent as well. I only fit into the intelligence margin. For people can become the real recommended students to UA at the end of this course, and I do not intend to fall behind or hold you 3 back. Psycho stopped in front of a building before checking the address and walking in. So what are you doing now exactly? Izuku followed her into the building. Getting a teacher. The girl answered unclearly as she went up the stairs, checking room numbers as she went. One of the UA teachers? The boy asked.
No.
In fact, I would be the first student of hers. Hers? Izuku wondered who the person was. Yes, Psycho said as she stopped in front of a door and knocked on it. A curse was heard, and the second later, in a giant hoodie, was the rabbit hero Miruko. Mirko was having a decent evening until it got interrupted. Cursing, she opened the door to see 2 of the kids from the villain attack where they took the villain she wanted to kick the teeth in of. What are you brats doing here? She asked, having no tone to show her irritation. I want you to train me. Psycho cut right to the chase. The rabbit-like heroine looked at the girl for a second before bursting out in laughter. That's funny, kid. Go away.
No.
Psycho didn't move her gaze an inch. I want you to actually take me on as a student. You must not know me, kid. Miruko started. I don't do teams, and I especially don't teach snot-nosed brats. Make an exception. Psycho said flatly. Miruko had a little bit of respect for the girl, not even moving an inch on her choice. Why should I make an exception? I don't have a good reason besides me not wanting to have others handle things while I sit there or be helpless. Psycho responded. So you think that you are weak, and that by simply telling someone who hates working with others to work with you it will happen? The heroine looked the teen in her eyes. That's what it looks like. Psycho kept an even look with her requested teacher. Mirko hasn't met many interesting kids, but this girl made the second one in the same day. She laughed again. You know what? I like you. Sure, why not? Every single day, and if I think you can't handle it at any point I am dropping your ass. That is acceptable. Psycho nodded. However, he has to be here 1 day a week. Mirko pointed to Izuku. I don't meet people I genuinely find interesting often. So you are going to be here once a week, Stabby. Stabby? Izuku questioned the name choice. Your knife skills were weak. I plan on making sure you get better at that. Mirko closed her door with her still in the hallway. Both of you get down to the field out back. First lesson starts now. An hour later, Izuku rubbed the bruise on his head, feeling worn out. You two suck. Mirko stated to the 2 tired kids. Stabby, you're not as bad, which is good since you only had the 1 arm to work with today. Thankfully for you, girl, I will be making you do this every day. You'll continue to train me? Psycho asked. The wording at first made her think Mirko was about to drop her. You have potential, a good body for physical activities, but you have virtually no muscles. I'm going to change that, however. Mirko waved them off. Go to your dumb kid stuff now. The two started to leave. Am I taking you home now, or do you have another surprise visit? Izuku asked. Home. Saiko responded. They arrived at Saiko's estate soon after. Today was interesting, Izuku remarked as Saiko nodded and knocked on the door. It was indeed. Saiko remembered the look her friend had when he first injected himself with his CS3 and how quickly he took out the villains. It was a terrifying look, but none of feelings of that look were aimed at her. She didn't dislike the look since the one time it was used in a situation where it saved her. Thank you. Walking you here was no problem. Izuku waved off the compliment. You were the one who saved me from the villain. Thank you for that. Also thank you for agreeing to train with Miriko-sensei and me. It's nothing. The chemical-filled teen waved off the compliment again. It's more than nothing. You didn't have to agree to training with her. Thank you. The door opened, and it was the butler from earlier. Miss Intelli, are you okay? The butler saw her dirty jacket and bruised lip. I am fine. I had training today. Saiko entered and turned back to Izuku. By Midoriya. Izuku waved. See you, Intelli. He began to leave. Saiko felt another feeling she couldn't identify when Izuku left. Almost like she didn't want him to. Izuku entered his house. Hey, Dad. Izuku called out, not sure where his dad could be. Yep. He heard his father speak from his study. Izuku went to his father's study. Seeing a few boxes that looked like they were pulled from the basement, the actual basement, not Izuku's. What are these? Izuku asked. This is what I mentioned earlier. The injured hero made his chair spin with his good leg, so he could face Izuku. So you know how costumes go through changes and developments as time goes on, and we find new ways to utilize our quirks or get gear that we learn to work with? Izuku nodded. Yes. Well, I found stuff I honestly forgot all about and would be perfect for you. Hisashi pulled out a set of metal gloves that were lime green with silver trimming to them. I found my set of gloves from my third year at UA. Izuku held the gloves his father handed to him carefully, definitely happy to have them. Cool. That's not all. His father had a grin as he tapped the box. I also found stuff from my father that you might like, since he had some background with chemistry. Hisashi couldn't help but be vague when it came to his own father, not knowing much on the man at all. Izuku looked in the box and the first thing he saw was an old canister, which his father quickly took and placed away from them both. What's in the canister? Izuku asked. Is it chemicals? Yep. I haven't figured out what type of chemical, so please only open that in your test chamber if you want to take it, Hisashi asked. He has a few journals of notes on his chemicals and this red leather jacket. A few more gas masks as well. The jacket looks like it is missing a patch that was ripped off, so I might fix that if it bothers you. Izuku liked everything so far. It's fine. Why does he have these chemicals anyways? The flame-using Midoriya didn't know, and it showed with his stuck expression. I dunno. Kinda unclear on what my father used to do. The Emerald teen looked at all the boxes. Do I get everything here? Sure. What with my not really having knowledge on chemicals like that? I will help you take them to your basement in a sec. I got it. Izuku lifted a box. I can get them out of here soon. You don't need to rush. I know about the villain situation earlier today too. Your mother told me. Hisashi didn't sound like he was going to lecture Izuku. Good job kicking ass. I found a news report that mentioned what happened too. How bad was the CS3? Could you control it? Izuku shook his hand. I managed to not get too violent. Only a little bit. Hisashi nodded. That's good. Your friends are an interesting bunch. Yeah, they're nice. Izuku nodded. Later, after he had moved the boxes to his basement and had dinner, Izuku began to go through the boxes more, eyeing the chemical canister every once in a while. He wanted to open it badly, but the filters on his chamber needed replacing, and he didn't know what kind of chemicals it had. He liked his father's. He stopped going through things when he got a text from Katsuki.
Elle.
Katsuki. How was the booty call? Izuku. It was not a booty call. She wanted an escort to where we were hanging out. Katsuki. Izuku. Izuku. Katsuki. Katsuki. Why would a girl want an escort anywhere from anyone? Izuku. She said because she is a female and people might take advantage. Katsuki. Well, she isn't wrong on that.
Elle.
Izuku decided to tell Katsuki about the villain attack.
Elle.
Izuku, we were caught in the middle of a villain situation earlier. Katsuki, why am I never around for the action? Izuku, want to swap places? Katsuki, no, I prefer being taller. Izuku, it's only 3 centimeters. Katsuki, what's the damage? Izuku, my right arm is broken for a few days and I bruised my left arm. Katsuki, so you got your ass hooped again, huh? Izuku, I actually took down 3 people. I used my CS3 on them. Katsuki, you know I don't bother remembering which chemical is which. Izuku, the one you call aggressive steroids.
Katsuki, ah.
Katsuki, did it make you violent that time? Izuku, I took a knife and stabbed 2 of them. They're not dead, but I definitely stabbed them. Katsuki, nice. Izuku, your idol Maruko was there. Katsuki, Maruko was there and you didn't mention that first?
Izuku, surprise.
Katsuki, what happened? Izuku, she got mad because we took out the villains right before she got there. Katsuki, and? Izuku, Intelli managed to talk her into an apprenticeship with Miruko. Katsuki, lucky bitch. Izuku, Miruko calls me stabby. Katsuki, I hate you right now. I don't go meeting your idol behind your back. Izuku, my idol is my dad. Katsuki, I might go meet him behind your back now. Izuku, okay.
Elle.
Katsuki didn't reply back, or even open the message, so Izuku assumed he was busy. Izuku was about to go back through more of the boxes before he got a new text, one from Setsuna.
Elle.
Setsuna. So, Izuku. So what? Setsuna. How was taking Intelli home? Izuku. We made a stop before we got to her estate. Setsuna. So she did want the dick. Izuku. Stop. You're just as bad as Katsuki. She wanted to go figure something out and she did. Setsuna. What was it?
Elle.
Izuku didn't feel like divulging Psycho's insecurities earlier, so he would just skip that part.
Elle.
Izuku. She wanted a physical trainer. Setsuna. Oh, I could have helped her with that. Izuku. I wasn't really a help as much as I was just there. Setsuna. Surprised she didn't ask you for training after you decked 3 villains like that. Izuku. Is it really decking when I stabbed 2 of them? Setsuna. Fine, you beat or cut the shit out of them. Izuku. Okay.
Elle.
The group chat had a notification because Inesa sent a message.
Elle.
Inesa. Today was truly fantastic. Setsuna. Hell yeah. I got to punch a villain in his balls. Psycho. Please use cleaner language. Setsuna. I forcibly applied my fist to his genitals. Psycho. Never mind. Izuku. One of these days I have to get you and Katsuki to meet. You'd like him. Setsuna. Is he hot? Izuku. I am not into guys, so I don't know. Setsuna. I take that as possibly. Setsuna. I must meet this Katsuki to see how hot he is. Setsuna. What's his type? Izuku. I don't know. Setsuna. Whack. How do you not know? Izuku. He never really showed interest in anyone at all. Setsuna. It is now my personal challenge to get him to show interest in a woman, namely me. Izuku. Why? Setsuna. Winky face. Inesa. What did your father want to show you, Midoriya? Izuku. Oh, he wanted to give me one of his original sets of gloves. Setsuna. Nice. Inesa. Really? Izuku. Yep. I have to get them resized, but I got them. I also got a canister of a chemical on of my ancestors made. Setsuna. Nice. Inesa. Why did your great-grandfather have chemicals? Setsuna. Was he a drug lord? Izuku. Don't know for sure. Dad didn't know that much either. Setsuna. Nice. That means he could have been a drug lord. Izuku. I just found out he was a chemist and made his own unique poison gas. Setsuna. In other words, a drug lord. Izuku. Why are you convinced my ancestor was a drug lord? Setsuna. It is funny. Psycho. It might be a good addition to your collection. Psycho completely ignored Setsuna's antics. Izuku. I plan on adding it once I get more filters for my chamber. I don't know how strong the chemical is. Inesa. How do you add more chemicals to what you can make? Izuku. I ingest them. Sometimes I can feel a little sick after. Setsuna. Wait, you have to eat the hazardous stuff in order to make it? Psycho. It is probably so his own chemicals can learn how to make them. Since his CS1 is a vast string of chemicals, it might be able to make chemicals after being introduced to them. Izuku. That's what I always figured. If CS1 is really complicated and unreadable, it might actually house every single element in it possibly, although I doubt that is possible, but I don't know exactly. Psycho. Maybe one day I can help look at it. I do enjoy puzzles. Setsuna. In ERRRDS. Izuku. You are in the same course as us. Doesn't that also make you a nerd? Setsuna. No. I outdown my pocket protector and taped glasses after class. Izuku. You use a pocket protector? Setsuna. I figured you would since you are a nerd. Izuku. My face is a good enough protector. Setsuna. Setsuna. Didn't see you making a joke like that. Izuku. You're rubbing off on me. Setsuna. Did you say I am rubbing on you? Izuku. No, you can clearly see the text right there. Inesa. I can too. Setsuna. String bean, are you trying to flirt?
Izuku. Non.
Setsuna. Damn, you didn't need to reply that fast. Setsuna. Take a second and spare my feelings, geez. Izuku, my bad. Setsuna. Bah, you're fine. Psycho. What does the container of the chemicals say?
L.
Izuku grabbed the canister to read the label on it.
L.
Izuku, compound JM78.
Inesa. I don't think I am familiar with it. Psycho. I don't see that on the database my father has. Setsuna. Your dad has a database? What does he do? Psycho. He is CEO of a company that works on support gear here in Japan.
Intel works.
Setsuna. Huh, probably should have guessed. Aren't they big other places as well? Inesa. Yes, they are the biggest company in most of Asia as well as Australia and Eastern Europe. Psycho. Yes. Izuku. I think someone from Intel Works is the person studying my mom's illness. Psycho. It could be possible. They do stretch into other fields.
L.
Izuku was fiddling with the canister band, accidentally released the gas. Right on top of himself. Luckily, he had been in the viewing room of his test chamber and not anywhere else. A thick yellow-orange cloud of smoke that luckily stayed in the immediate area emptied out of the canister. Ack! Izuku cursed, deciding to just breath in as much of the chemical to make himself have it. The chemical didn't feel like anything new. In fact, it felt a lot like his CS1, which would be weird for a chemical made decades ago that was unique to be his own chemical his body made. It wasn't the same, however, just really similar. The compound Z8 felt like it wasn't as potent as it could be, but that didn't matter to Izuku. He could always change the potency as he made it. Izuku realized he could just breath in all of the chemical and release it in the test chamber, and just filter it out later if necessary. Taking a few big breaths, if the chemical he breathed it out into the open airlock, closing the door behind the chemicals. As he turned back around, the chemicals he had left were already started to fade. Quickly grabbing an air scanner on the desk, he put it in the middle of the smoke and watched as the chemicals began to lower in toxicity, like the air around it was eating away the toxins. Izuku kept watching it and making sure to remember everything he could about the behavior of the chemical. It seemed like the chemical was made so that it would only be dangerous for a few seconds, oxygen dissolving any toxicity of the compound after what Izuku could guess was 10 seconds. His chest felt tingly from breathing in the chemical, so he knew it was a little dangerous to breath for others at the least. Izuku wrote a few notes and ignored the sounds of his phone going off, planning on checking the texts after he finished writing down every possible thing he could. After a minute, he picked up his phone to see the group chat had a few messages after he had dropped his phone in a panic. Luckily, he didn't crack his phone at all.
L.
Setsuna. So everyone want to hang out at my place next weekend? Inesa. Yes, I would. Psycho. As long as it doesn't interfere with my training schedule. Setsuna. Nice. Setsuna. How about you, String Bean? Setsuna, did he really leave us on read? Inesa. He might have gotten busy with something. Setsuna. I got left on read. Can't get over that part. Izuku. Sorry, I had an accident. Inesa. What happened? Izuku. I was messing with the canister of that compound Z8 and accidentally set it off. Setsuna. I am rolling on the floor laughing. Psycho. Did you manage to ingest some? Izuku. Yep. It's oddly close to my CS. One except it seems to be more quickly neutralized by oxygen. Psycho. How long does it last? Izuku. 10 seconds from what I can guess. It's more orange than my CS1, but I have plans to incorporate it into my regular CS1. Make a new compound I can label CS1Z8. Setsuna. Nerd, answer my earlier question. Izuku. Oh yes, sorry. I can come. I have a busy schedule half the time, so it's random when I can be free. Setsuna. Just let me know. Inasa. Good luck with your chemicals. Izuku. Good luck with your whirlwind. Setsuna. See you guys at the class they have on Tuesday. Inasa. I forgot about the class. Izuku, there was a class. Setsuna. How do I know but the nerd doesn't? Izuku. I've been looking through old boxes. You probably read more of the packet and got that info. Setsuna. Yeah, I did. Izuku. Is it just Tuesday? Psycho. Every Tuesday and Thursday. Our schools have all agreed to give us half days on those days so we can attend the UA course. Inasa. I shall see you all there. Izuku, bye guys.
Elle.
Izuku actually dropped his phone at that point onto his couch so he can start closing the boxes. He can go through them all tomorrow after school. Going to his room, Izuku only bothered to remove his hoodie before dropping on his bed, too tired to care about the bandages on his arms or anything else. Later, Izuku woke up from his phone going off again. Seeing the notification, it read a message from Psycho. It was 3 in the morning. He didn't know why she would be up.
Elle.
Psycho, thank you again for yesterday.
Elle.
Izuku didn't know which thing today she was referring to.
Elle.
Izuku. Anytime. I'm glad to help.
Elle.
Izuku fell back to sleep after that, not noticing his nodes glowing slightly more brightly than normal. Psycho smiled at Izuku's response. She wasn't good with emotions, but she can definitely tell that she was happy at the moment. /n. So I wondered how to replicate what I did with the original version of Toxin and how Izuku's second skeletal system went through a growth upon gaining OFA, which he isn't getting this time around, and came up with a solution. It is already happening in the story, and I hope it makes sense to everyone and not just me. When I said valve in the past 2 chapters, one really was picturing a dilating door. Google images if you need a reference, because for some reason I mixed them up. I properly will again because I lack common sense, so I will leave this here for everyone to see. Let me know how it was. I enjoy feedback I can work with.